The crystal towers of Velath Prime gleamed under three suns, their blue light dancing through the transparent walls of the great city. Inside the tallest spire, Ambassador Jiho stood before a massive holographic display showing the dying worlds of his people. His crystalline skin, normally a bright blue like ocean water, had turned pale gray with worry. Jiho touched his communication device. The call would reach the Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Station, where representatives from 27 different species gathered to discuss the fate of entire worlds. Today, he would ask them to save his people from extinction. The hologram flickered to life. Dozens of alien faces appeared before him, each one representing a different civilization that had joined together to form the greatest alliance in galactic history. The Corvan Empire with their insect-like bodies and clicking voices, the Aquatic Federation whose whale-like beings floated in water-filled chambers, the Silicon Collective with their robot bodies that sparkled with electric thoughts, and many others. At the center sat the council speaker, a tall being from the ethereal monks. These ancient creatures had guided the galaxy for thousands of years with their wisdom and peaceful ways. Their leader, Zen Master Vorth, had skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Ambassador Jiho of the Velathi, the speaker said in a voice that sounded like wind through leaves. You have requested this emergency session. Please tell us why you have brought us together. Jiho took a deep breath. The words he was about to speak would either save his species or doom them forever. Honored council members, my people are dying. The Crimson Plague has reached 17 of our worlds in just 3 months. Entire cities turned to dust overnight. Our greatest scientists cannot find a cure. He activated another display. Images of once beautiful crystal cities now appeared as piles of red ash. The plague had earned its name from the deep red color it left behind when it consumed Velathi, crystal structures and flesh. On Keth Prime, 5 million Velathi lived last week, Jiho continued. Today only empty ruins remain. On Ura Station, our mining colonies simply vanished. The plague spreads faster than our ships can evacuate people. At this rate, the Velathi will be extinct within 1 year. Murmurs of concern rippled through the council chamber. Some species had fought wars with the Velathi in the past, but most respected them as skilled builders and peaceful traders. Their crystal technology had improved life for many worlds. Representative Thekmor of the Corvan Empire was the first to speak. His insect eyes glittered as he clicked his mandibles together. This plague you describe, does it affect only Velathi? Crystal biology? Yes, Jiho replied. We have tested it on other species. Humans, Corvans, aquatics, even silicon beings show no effects. Only we die from it. That is very specific, noted Dr. Yulara from the Aquatic Federation, her whale-like head bobbing in her water chamber. Too specific to be natural. This suggests biological warfare. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Biological weapons had been banned for centuries after the Great Plague Wars nearly destroyed several species. Master Vorth raised a glowing hand for silence. These are serious accusations, Dr. Yulara. Do the Velathi have evidence of deliberate attack? We have found no proof, Jiho admitted. But you are right. The plague targets only our crystal cells. Someone created this weapon to destroy us specifically. Representative Zekthul of the Silicon Collective spoke with a voice like grinding metal. If this is a weapon, it could be modified to target any species. We are all at risk. Fear began to spread through the chamber. If someone could create a weapon that killed only one species, they could create weapons for any species. The thought terrified every representative present. That fear soon turned to a terrible solution. I propose immediate quarantine of all Velathi. Space, Thekmor announced. No ships in or out until this plague is contained. Seconded, agreed Dr. Yulara quickly. We cannot risk the spread of this weapon. But the plague does not affect other species, Jiho protested. There is no risk to you. We only ask for medical aid and research assistance. Zekthul's electronic voice buzzed with uncertainty. What if the plague mutates? What if whoever created it makes new versions? We cannot take such risks. One by one, other representatives agreed. The fear of the unknown weapon was stronger than their desire to help. The Titanium Brotherhood voted for quarantine. The gas giant collective agreed. Even species that had never spoken to each other found common ground in their desire to stay safe. Jiho watched in growing horror as his people's fate was sealed by cowardice. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "We are not asking you to risk your lives. Send medical supplies. Share your scientific knowledge. Help us find a cure from a safe distance." But the vote had already begun. Species after species voted to abandon the Velati to their doom. The tally rose higher and higher until only a few delegations had not yet voted. The ethereal monks, who had been the Velati's closest allies for 200 years, cast their vote last. Master Vorth looked directly at Jiho with what seemed like sadness in his glowing eyes. "The ethereal monks vote for full quarantine," he said softly. "We are sorry, old friend, but we cannot risk the safety of the galaxy for any one species." The final vote was announced. 26 species voted for complete abandonment of the Velati. Only one delegation had remained silent throughout the entire vote. The humans sat quietly at their small table in the corner of the chamber. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, making them the youngest members by far. Most older species barely noticed them during important discussions. Captain Minho of the Earth Defense Force was a tall man, with kind eyes and graying hair. Next to him sat Dr. Hyena, a brilliant scientist with short black hair and determined expression. They had listened to every word without speaking. As other delegations began to leave the chamber, their duty done and their consciences cleared, Captain Minho stood up slowly. His movement caught Jiho's attention. The human walked across the empty chamber to where Jiho stood alone, abandoned by the galaxy he had served faithfully for decades. The Velati ambassador expected more empty words of sympathy, perhaps a polite goodbye before the humans also left him to die with his people. Instead, Captain Minho looked directly into Jiho's fading blue eyes and spoke 4 words that would change the course of galactic history. "We're not going anywhere." Dr. Hyena joined them, pulling out a small data pad. "We've been studying the information you shared about the plague. Our medical teams are already preparing research protocols. If you'll permit us, we'd like to begin immediate assistance." Jiho stared at them in disbelief. 26 advanced civilizations had just voted to let his people die rather than risk the smallest danger to themselves. But these young humans, barely 50 years in space, were volunteering to help without being asked. You would risk your lives for us?" Jiho asked. Captain Minho smiled sadly. "Ambassador, my species learned something important during our early wars. When good people do nothing in the face of evil, evil wins. We won't let that happen. Not while we can do something about it." "But your own Council of Species just voted against us," Jiho said. "Won't this cause problems for humanity with the other races?" Dr. Hyena shrugged. "Let them complain. We've never been good at following the crowd anyway. Our history is full of people who stood up when everyone else sat down." As the 3 of them stood in the now empty council chamber, Jiho felt something he had not experienced since the plague began. Hope. Not just for survival, but hope that goodness still existed in the galaxy. The youngest species in known space had just taught the oldest lesson of all, that doing what is right matters more than doing what is safe. Outside the chamber windows, stars twinkled in the darkness of space. Soon, human ships would be racing toward those distant lights, carrying medicine and hope to a dying people who had been abandoned by everyone else. The galaxy had made its choice, but humanity had made a different one. 3 days after the Galactic Council vote, the first human ships arrived at the edge of Velati space. Admiral Subin stood on the bridge of the HMS Sol, watching dozens of vessels drop out of hyperspace around her flagship. These were not the sleek warships that other species might send. Instead, humanity had converted cargo haulers, research vessels, medical ships, and even civilian transports into a rescue fleet. "Admiral, we have 47 ships ready for operations," reported her communications officer. "The medical ship Busan reports full readiness for plague research. The cargo vessel Inchin is loaded with emergency supplies for refugee evacuation. Subin nodded as she studied the tactical display. The Valathi had 17 infected worlds, and 12 more showing early signs of the plague. Time was running out for millions of crystal beings who had already lost hope. Send a message to all Valathi stations, she ordered. Tell them that Earth stands with them. We are here to help, and we are not leaving until this crisis is over. On board the medical ship Busan, Dr. Hyena worked with her team of scientists and doctors. The ship's laboratories had been quickly modified to handle Valathi biology. Crystal growth chambers replaced standard medical beds. Energy analysis equipment took the place of normal surgical tools. Doctor, we're receiving the first plague samples from Valathi ships, announced her assistant Dr. Chanwu. They're being transferred to Containment Lab 3. Dr. Hyena pulled on her protective suit and entered the sealed laboratory. Inside the containment field, she could see small pieces of red crystal that had once been part of a living Valathi. The plague had turned their beautiful blue crystal flesh into this dead, dusty material. Run a full spectral analysis, she ordered. I want to know everything about this plague. Energy signature, molecular structure, how it spreads, how it kills, everything. As her equipment hummed to life, Dr. Hyena made her first disturbing discovery. The plague was not spreading like a normal disease. Instead of moving from person to person through contact, it seemed to appear randomly across entire planets. Whole cities would be healthy one day and completely destroyed the next. This is not natural, she muttered to herself. Diseases don't work this way. Meanwhile, Commander Do-hyun led the evacuation fleet toward the outer Valathi colonies. His ship, the converted cargo hauler Incheon, had been fitted with emergency life support systems for crystal-based beings. The crew had trained for weeks to learn how to care for Valathi refugees. Sir, we're approaching Kethara colony, reported his navigator. The Valathi report that the plague reached the planet 6 hours ago. We may be too late. Through the viewport, Do-hyun could see the small mining world ahead. Half of the planet's surface glowed red where the plague had consumed Valathi settlements, but sensors showed thousands of life signs still active on the night side of the planet. All rescue shuttles launch immediately, Do-hyun ordered. Save everyone we can. The evacuation was desperate and dangerous. Rescue teams landed on Kethara just ahead of the spreading Red Death. They found Valathi families huddled in their crystal homes, waiting for the end to come. Many refused to believe that aliens had come to save them. Why do you help us? Asked an elderly Valathi named Tokra, as human medics helped him onto a rescue shuttle. Your own people voted to abandon us. The human medic, a young woman named Gina, checked his crystal readings before answering. Our leaders didn't abandon you. We're here, aren't we? But the other species, they said you were too young, too weak to matter in galactic politics. Gina smiled as she helped Tokra into a medical chair designed for his crystal body. Maybe being young means we still remember what's right and wrong. As the last shuttles lifted off from Kethara, the plague consumed the planet's core. The entire world cracked apart like broken glass. Commander Do-hyun watched 3,000 Valathi refugees crowd into his ship's cargo bays, alive only because humanity had acted when others would not. Back on the medical ship Busan, Dr. Hyena made a breakthrough that changed everything. Working alongside a young Valathi engineer named Kara, who'd been rescued from an infected station, she discovered something the galaxy's greatest minds had missed. Look at these energy readings, Dr. Hyena said, pointing to her computer screen. The plague isn't biological at all. It's pure energy, designed specifically to break down Valathi crystal structures. Kara studied the data with her large, multifaceted eyes. Her blue crystal skin flickered with patterns of thought as she processed the information. You are saying this is a weapon, not a disease. Exactly. And weapons are made by someone. The question is who would create something so horrible and why? Their work was interrupted by an urgent message from the bridge. Admiral Subin's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. All vessels, we have a problem. Long-range sensors detect Corvin Empire ships approaching the border of Valathi space. They're broadcasting warnings that any ship entering infected areas will be destroyed on sight. Dr. Hyena and Kara looked at each other with understanding. The galaxy was not content to simply abandon the Velathi. Now they wanted to make sure no one could help them. On the Bridge of the Soul, Admiral Subin received a direct communication from Corvan Fleet Commander Zekthal. The insect-like being's image appeared on the main screen, his compound eyes glittering with authority. "Human Admiral, you are ordered to leave Velathi space immediately. Any vessel remaining in the quarantine zone will be considered infected and destroyed." Subin stood straighter, her voice calm but firm. "Commander Zekthul, we are conducting humanitarian operations under Earth authority. We have no intention of leaving. Then you condemn your own species to infection and death. The plague will spread to your worlds. Our medical teams have found no evidence that the plague affects non-Velathi biology. Your fears are unfounded." Zekthul's mandibles clicked angrily. "You risk the safety of the entire galaxy for one dying species. This is madness." "No," Subin replied quietly. "This is called doing the right thing." The transmission ended abruptly. Within hours, reports came in from across human space. Corvan ships were moving to blockade all routes between Earth and Velathi territory. The Aquatic Federation was closing their space lanes to human vessels. Even the peaceful Silicon Collective was refusing to trade with Earth until humanity abandoned the Velathi. In the medical bay of the Busan, human technician Wubin worked alongside Kara to modify life support systems for Velathi refugees. Despite the language barriers and completely different biology, they had developed a friendship based on mutual respect and shared purpose. "My people cannot understand why you help us," Kara said as they calibrated a crystal growth chamber. "We have nothing to offer Earth in return." Wubin paused in his work and looked at her with a gentle smile. "Kara, my grandmother always told me that when you do something because it's right, you don't need any other reason. But your species will suffer for helping us. The other races will punish Earth." "Let them try," Wubin said simply. "We humans have faced worse odds before." As news of the galactic response reached Earth, President Young-ho addressed the planet in a broadcast that would be remembered for centuries. Standing before the United Earth Assembly, he spoke words that defined humanity's place in the galaxy. "My fellow humans, the galaxy has chosen fear over compassion, safety over justice. 26 species have decided that it is better to let an entire race die than risk the smallest danger to themselves. They now threaten us for refusing to abandon our principles." He paused, looking directly into the camera that would carry his words to billions of humans across dozens of worlds. "To those who threaten us, I say this: Earth has faced extinction before and survived. We have fought against overwhelming odds and prevailed. We will not be intimidated into abandoning those who need our help. If the galaxy wants to punish us for doing what's right, then let them try." The response from human space was immediate and overwhelming. Volunteer ships began launching from every human world. Medical supplies, food, equipment, and personnel flowed toward Velathi space. Retired military officers returned to service. Civilian pilots volunteered for dangerous rescue missions. The galaxy had expected humanity to back down when faced with united opposition. Instead, they discovered that threatening humans only made them more determined to help. As the second week of operations began, Admiral Subin received a private message that changed everything. Dr. Hyena had made a discovery about the plague that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The energy signature of the weapon matched technology used by only one species in the galaxy. The creators of the Crimson Plague were not unknown aliens from distant space. They were the ethereal monks, the galaxy's supposed peacekeepers and the Velathi's oldest allies. Dr. Hyena stared at the test results for the third time, hoping she had made a mistake. The energy signature was unmistakable. After 2 weeks of constant analysis aboard the medical ship Busan, she had finally traced the Crimson Plague back to its source. What she found would change everything the galaxy believed about peace and justice. "Nara, look at this data again," she said to the Velathi scientist working beside her. "Tell me I'm wrong about what we're seeing." Nara's crystalline features flickered with confusion as she studied the energy patterns on the screen. Her blue skin had grown darker over the past days as the stress of losing her homeworld affected her crystal biology. The quantum resonance matches ethereal technology, Nara said quietly. But that cannot be right. The monks have been our allies for 2 centuries. They taught us peaceful meditation techniques. They helped us build our first starships. Dr. Hyena pulled up another screen showing energy signatures from known ethereal devices. The match was perfect down to the smallest detail. I ran this analysis 50 times, Nara. There's no mistake. The weapon destroying your people was created using ethereal monk technology. On the bridge of the HMS Soul, Admiral Subin received the shocking report while coordinating defensive positions around Velith Prime. The plague had reached the Velothi homeworld 3 days ago, and millions of crystal beings were dying every hour. "Ma'am, Dr. Hyena is requesting immediate secure communication," reported her communications officer. "She says it's about the source of the plague." "Put her through," Subin ordered. Dr. Hyena's tired face appeared on the main screen. She had not slept in 36 hours, working desperately to find answers while Velothi refugees died in the medical bays around her. "Admiral, I have proof that the Crimson Plague was created by the ethereal monks. The energy signature is identical to their temple power sources. They didn't just abandon the Velothi in the council vote. They created the weapon that's killing them." The bridge fell silent. Every human officer stared at the screen in disbelief. The ethereal monks were known throughout the galaxy as wise peacekeepers who had prevented wars for thousands of years. The idea that they were committing genocide seemed impossible. "Are you absolutely certain, Doctor?" Subin asked. "I've checked the data with 3 independent analysis teams. There's no doubt. The monks are behind this." Captain Minho, who had been monitoring defensive perimeters around the outer planets, joined the conversation from his ship, the Daegu. "If this is true, then we're not just fighting a plague. We're fighting the galaxy's most respected species." Lieutenant Gyol, stationed on the patrol ship Guangzhou at the edge of the system, intercepted a transmission that confirmed their worst fears. "Admiral, I'm picking up encrypted monk communications. They're talking about something called final cleansing protocol and mention Velothi extinction as being 90% complete." The terrible truth became clear. The ethereal monks had not only created the weapon destroying the Velothi, they were actively monitoring its progress. This was not an accident or a disease that got out of control. This was deliberate, planned genocide. "Why would they do this?" asked Nara, her voice breaking as she learned that her people's oldest friends were their murderers. "We never threatened them. We shared our crystal technology freely. We helped build their meditation temples." Dr. Hyena had found the answer in captured monk data files. "They were jealous, Nara. Your people's natural ability to channel and focus energy made their technology look primitive. Instead of learning from you, they decided to eliminate you. On Velith Prime, the situation was growing desperate. The planet's beautiful crystal cities were cracking and turning to red dust as the plague spread. Wubin and Kara worked frantically in the underground research bunkers, trying to develop a cure before the homeworld was completely destroyed. "The plague is feeding on the planet's crystal core," Kara reported to the surface teams. "If we cannot stop it within 12 hours, Veloth Prime will shatter like glass." Wubin studied the energy readings from his modified human equipment. "I think I know how to disrupt the plague, but we need to broadcast the cure frequency through the entire planetary crystal network at once." "That would require enormous power," Kara said. "Only the sacred crystal in the capital city has enough energy capacity." "Then that's where we go," Wubin decided. Above them, space filled with new arrivals. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching the Velothi system. Admiral Subin expected to see Corvin reinforcements coming to enforce the quarantine. Instead, the ships bore the peaceful symbols of the ethereal monks. "This is Zen Master Vorth of the Ethereal Fleet," came the transmission. "We have come to assist with containment of the plague threat." Subin knew better now. The monks had not come to help. They had come to finish what they started. "All human ships prepare for combat," she ordered. "The monks are not here to help. They're here to complete the genocide. Captain Minho moved his ship into position between the Monk fleet and Velath Prime. Admiral, they outnumber us 10-1. We can't stop them all. We don't have to stop them all, Subin replied. We just have to buy enough time for Dr. Hyena and Wubin to deploy the cure. The Monk fleet consisted of over 2,000 ships, each one equipped with energy weapons that could phase through conventional shields. They had been built to fight energy-based creatures like the Velathi, not solid matter ships like human vessels. Human Admiral. Zen Master Vorth's calm voice filled the communication channels. You have discovered our work. This is unfortunate. The Velathi were a threat to galactic stability. Their elimination is necessary for the greater good. The greater good? Subin replied angrily. You're committing genocide against people who trusted you. They were becoming too powerful. Their crystal technology would have eventually challenged the natural order. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for millennia. Sometimes peace requires difficult choices. As the first Monk ships began targeting Velathi population centers, human vessels moved to intercept them. The battle for Velath Prime was about to begin, and humanity faced an enemy with thousands of years of experience and technology far beyond their own. But humans had something the Monks did not expect, the willingness to sacrifice everything for what was right. All ships. This is Admiral Subin. She broadcast on all frequencies. Today we fight not just for the Velathi, but for the idea that genocide is never acceptable. Today we show the galaxy what humans stand for. The Monk energy. Weapons opened fire and space around Velath Prime erupted in light and destruction. Humanity's greatest test had begun. The Battle of Velath Prime began at 800 Galactic Standard Time, with a coordinated strike by the ethereal Monk fleet. 2,000 energy weapons fired simultaneously at the dying planet below, intending to finish what the Crimson Plague had started. Between the attackers and their target stood 300 human ships, vastly outnumbered but refusing to retreat. Admiral Subin watched the tactical display aboard the HMS Sol as enemy fire lit up space around her fleet. The Monk energy beams passed harmlessly through human shields, but their ships' solid hulls absorbed the attacks. What should have been an advantage for the Monks became a weakness. All ships, target their weapon arrays, Subin ordered. We can't match their firepower, but we can disrupt their ability to target the planet. Captain Minho led the first attack run in his ship, the Daegu. Racing toward the massive Monk flagship at full speed, he dodged energy blasts while his crew targeted the enemy's primary weapons. The ship shook violently as secondary explosions rocked the hull. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported his engineer. We're losing atmosphere. Seal it and keep firing, Minho replied. We have to buy time for the surface teams. On Velath Prime below, Dr. Hyena worked desperately in the underground medical bunkers as the planet shook from orbital bombardment. Around her, the last few thousand Velathi survivors waited for either salvation or death. Many had given up hope, but they stayed to help the humans who had risked everything for them. The cure frequency is ready, she announced to Wubin and Kara, who were preparing to broadcast the signal through the planet's crystal network. But we need a massive power source to reach every infected area simultaneously. Kara's crystal, skin flickered with determination. The sacred crystal in the capital city can provide that power, but the plague has made the entire area unstable. The journey there may be impossible. Then we make it possible, said Wubin, loading equipment onto a transport vehicle. We didn't come this far to give up now. Above them, the space battle raged with increasing intensity. Human ships dove between Monk vessels, using their smaller size and maneuverability to avoid the worst of the energy weapons. Commander Do-hyun's converted cargo ship, the Incheon, took devastating damage while protecting a group of medical vessels. Engineering reports main power failing, announced his second-in-command. We're running on backup systems only. Do-hyun studied his tactical screen. 3 Monk destroyers were converging on his position, ready to deliver the final blow. All crew to escape pods. We're going to ram the lead ship. Sir, that's suicide, protested his navigator. No, that's buying time for people who need it. The Incheon accelerated toward the nearest Monk destroyer at full speed. At the last moment, Do-hyun ejected the ship's reactor core, turning his vessel into a massive bomb that destroyed 2 enemy ships and damaged a third. On the surface, Woo-bin and Kara raced through the crumbling crystal streets of the Velothi capital. Around them, beautiful spires that had stood for thousands of years collapsed into red dust as the plague consumed the city's foundation. "The sacred crystal chamber is just ahead," Kara shouted over the sound of falling debris. "But look at the energy readings. The plague has infected the crystal itself." Woo-bin checked his equipment. "That might actually help us. The infected crystal will amplify the cure signal even more than we planned." They reached the chamber just as another wave of orbital bombardment shook the planet. The sacred crystal, once a brilliant blue beacon at the heart of Velothi civilization, now pulsed with sickly red energy as the plague consumed it from within. "We have maybe 10 minutes before the crystal shatters completely," Kara warned. "After that, the chain reaction will destroy the entire planet." Woo-bin began connecting his broadcasting equipment to the crystal matrix. "Then we better work fast." In space, the human fleet was being systematically destroyed. Admiral Subin watched helplessly as ship after ship fell to the overwhelming monk firepower. Her own vessel, the Soul, had lost half its weapons and was running on emergency power. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Corvin Empire fleet," reported her communications officer with surprise in his voice. "Put them through." The image of Fleet Commander Zekthul appeared on screen. The insect being's compound eyes showed what might have been regret. "Human Admiral, we have been monitoring this battle. We did not know the truth about the monks. We have come to assist you." Behind the Corvin ships, Subin could see vessels from the Aquatic Federation, the Silicon Collective, and even some smaller species that had voted to abandon the Velothi weeks ago. The galaxy was finally awakening to what humanity had been fighting for all along. "Better late than never," Subin replied grimly. "Target the monk command ships. We need to disrupt their coordination." The arrival of galactic reinforcements changed the balance of the battle, but the monks still held significant advantages. Their energy weapons were devastating against most species' technology, and their ships were far more advanced than anything else in the galaxy. What they had not counted on was human determination. Pilot Bora, flying a small fighter craft, managed to slip past the monk defenses and reach the surface of Veloth Prime. Her mission was simple but crucial: ensure that Woo-bin and Kara could broadcast their cure signal without interference. "Surface team, this is Fighter 7, she radioed. "I'm in position to protect your broadcast site. Deploy the cure as soon as ready." In the crystal chamber below, Woo-bin made the final connections while Kara prepared the cure frequency. The sacred crystal pulsed with unstable energy, threatening to explode at any moment. "Signal ready," Woo-bin announced. "Broadcasting cure frequency through planetary network in 3, 2, 1. The cure signal spread through Veloth Prime's crystal matrix like light through water. Wherever it touched, the red plague energy began to fade, replaced by the natural blue glow of healthy Velothi crystal. Buildings stopped crumbling. The spreading death halted, but the signal needed time to reach every infected area on the planet and beyond to the other Velothi worlds. Time they might not have as monk ships pressed their attack. Above them, Captain Minho made a decision that would be remembered for generations. His badly damaged ship, the Daegu, was no longer effective in the main battle, but he could still protect the cure broadcast. "All remaining power to shields," he ordered his crew. "Position us directly above the sacred crystal chamber. Whatever happens, we protect that signal." As monk energy weapons concentrated their fire on his ship, Minho held position. The Daegu absorbed blast after blast, its hull glowing red-hot from the constant bombardment. But the ship held, and the cure signal continued broadcasting. On worlds throughout Velothi space, the plague began to retreat. Infected crystal cities stopped turning to dust. Dying Velothi felt their bodies stabilizing as the weapon that had been destroying them was finally countered. The galaxy watched in amazement as humanity, the youngest spacefaring species, accomplished what thousands of years of advanced civilization had claimed was impossible. They had found a cure for a weapon designed to be unstoppable, but the battle was far from over. Zen Master Vorth, seeing his genocide plan failing, ordered his fleet to destroy Veleth Prime entirely. If the monks could not eliminate the Velati, with their plague they would finish the job with brute force. All ships concentrate fire on the planet's core, he commanded. Destroy the source of the cure signal. As the combined monk fleet prepared for one final devastating attack, Admiral Subin realized that even with galactic reinforcements, they could not stop such overwhelming firepower. The cure was working, but it would mean nothing if the Velati, homeworld, was destroyed. That was when the galaxy learned what humans truly meant when they said they would not abandon their friends. The evidence that changed galactic history arrived in a simple data packet, transmitted by human intelligence officer Tae Hyung from his damaged reconnaissance ship. As the Battle of Veleth Prime raged in space above, he had infiltrated monk communication networks and discovered records that would destroy their reputation forever. Admiral Subin, you need to see this immediately. Tae Hyung's voice crackled through damaged communication equipment. The monks haven't just been planning Velati genocide, this is much bigger. The data files revealed thousands of years of hidden atrocities. The ethereal monks had not been peacekeepers at all. They had been manipulating galactic politics from the shadows, eliminating species that threatened their control. The Velati were just the latest in a long line of civilizations the monks had secretly destroyed. Admiral Subin forwarded the evidence to every ship in the battle, both human and alien. Within minutes, the information spread throughout galactic communication networks. Species across the galaxy learned that their most trusted advisors were genocidal monsters. The effect was immediate and devastating for the monk fleet. Their own crews began questioning orders. Some ships powered down weapons and requested permission to surrender. Others broke formation entirely as commanders refused to continue fighting. Zen Master Vorth, watching his fleet fall apart around him, made one final desperate decision. If he could not destroy the Velati secretly, he would do it openly and dare the galaxy to stop him. All loyal ships, target Veleth Prime directly, he commanded. Destroy the planet completely. End this now. But the galaxy had finally awakened. Fleet Commander Zekthul of the Corvan Empire positioned his ships between the remaining monk vessels and the planet below. Zen Master Vorth, by the authority of the Galactic Council, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient life, the Insect Commander announced. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. You cannot arrest us, Vorth replied with cold fury. We have guided this galaxy for millennia. We are beyond your primitive laws. Not anymore, said Admiral Subin, as the combined human and alien fleets surrounded the remaining monk ships. Today, your reign of terror ends. The final battle was brief but decisive. Faced with overwhelming opposition and abandoned by most of their own forces, the loyal monk ships were quickly disabled or destroyed. Zen Master Vorth himself was captured when his flagship was boarded by a joint human-Corvan assault team. On Veleth Prime, the cure signal had completed its work. The Crimson Plague was gone from the planet, and surviving Velati emerged from their shelters to see their crystal cities beginning to heal. The process would take years, but they would survive. Dr. Hyena and Nara stood in the restored sacred crystal chamber, watching blue light return to the great crystal that had powered Velati civilization for thousands of years. Around them, other scientists from dozens of species worked together to ensure the cure would protect all crystal-based life forms from similar weapons. We will publish all of this research freely, Dr. Hyena announced to the assembled scientists. No species should ever face this kind of threat again. Nara touched her friend's shoulder with one crystal in hand. Dr. Hyena, how can my people ever repay humanity for what you have done? You don't need to repay us, Dr. Hyena smiled. That's not why we helped. We helped because it was right. Back on the Soul's Bridge, Admiral Subin received a priority transmission from Earth. President Young-ho appeared on screen, his face showing both pride and sadness at the cost of the victory. Admiral, the galaxy is calling for a new council session to address the monk crimes and restructure galactic government. They want human representatives to take leadership roles. Subin was not surprised. In just a few weeks, humanity had exposed the galaxy's greatest deception, saved an entire species from extinction, and united former enemies against a common threat. The other species had finally recognized what humans had always known, that moral courage mattered more than advanced technology or ancient wisdom. "What are our orders, Mr. President?" she asked. "Help them build something better than what came before. Show them that cooperation works better than domination." The revelations about monk crimes sent shockwaves throughout galactic civilization. Species that had trusted the monks for generations learned they had been manipulated and controlled. Governments fell. Trade agreements collapsed. The entire structure of galactic society began to reorganize itself. Ambassador Jiho, recovered from the plague thanks to the human cure, found himself addressing a very different galactic council than the one that had abandoned his people weeks earlier. This time, the chamber was filled with species demanding justice and accountability. "The evidence is clear," Jiho announced to the assembly. The ethereal monks systematically eliminated any species they saw as a threat to their control. The Xanthari disappeared 500 years ago. The crystal singers vanished 2 centuries ago. We now know they did not leave this galaxy voluntarily. They were murdered. The chamber erupted in angry voices as species realized how many civilizations they had lost to monk manipulation. Some demanded immediate revenge, others called for trials and justice through legal means. It was Captain Minho, still recovering from injuries sustained in the battle, who provided the voice of reason. "We cannot let our anger make us like them," he said from his hospital bed via video link. "The monks ruled through fear and deception. We must build something better based on truth and cooperation." The new galactic council that emerged from the crisis was fundamentally different from the old one. Instead of being dominated by ancient species with hidden agendas, it was organized around principles of transparency and mutual aid. The human doctrine became the foundation of galactic law. Any species committing genocide would face unified response from all others. Humanity, despite being the youngest member of galactic civilization, found itself in a position of moral leadership that no one had expected. Their willingness to risk everything for strangers had earned them respect and trust that would last for generations. But perhaps the most important changes happened on smaller scales. Wubin and Kara established the Human Velathi Research Institute, where scientists from both species worked together on projects that benefited everyone. Their friendship had grown into something deeper, and they planned to marry in a ceremony that would unite representatives from dozens of worlds. Dr. Hyena received offers to lead medical research programs throughout the galaxy, but she chose to stay with her Velathi colleagues. Their work together had shown that different species could accomplish far more working together than any could achieve alone. On New Velath, the first colony established after the plague, human and Velathi, children played together in crystal gardens that grew stronger and more beautiful than anything seen before the crisis. They were living proof that cooperation created something better than what either species could build alone. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about the difference between ancient wisdom and moral courage. Sometimes it took the youngest voice in the room to remind everyone of what truly mattered. As Zen Master Vorth was led away to face trial for his crimes, he looked at the human guards escorting him with something that might have been confusion. "You could have let us finish our work," he said to Captain Minho. "The galaxy would have been more stable with fewer species to manage." Minho looked at the fallen leader with pity rather than anger. "That's the difference between us, Vorth. We think the galaxy is better with more diversity, not less. Every species has something valuable to offer." "Even us?" Vorth asked bitterly. "Even you," Minho replied. "You just forgot what that was." 5 years had passed since the Battle of Velith Prime, and the galaxy looked nothing like it had before the crisis. Admiral Subin stood on the observation deck of the Joint Defense Fleet flagship, watching human and Velathi ships patrol together through space that had once been a war zone. Her second-in-command, Velathi Admiral Kira, joined her at the viewport. The crystal being's skin glowed with healthy blue light, unmarked by the plague scars that had once threatened to destroy her entire species. "Patrol reports are all clear, Admiral," Kira said in the musical voice typical of her people. "No signs of illegal weapons testing or prohibited technology in this sector." "Good," Subin replied, watching their mixed crews work together with an efficiency that amazed other galactic species. "Any word from the Outer Rim expedition?" Captain Minho reports successful first contact with 3 new species. All have agreed to consider joining the alliance under the human doctrine principles. The Human Velothi Alliance had grown far beyond what anyone had imagined possible. Starting as an emergency partnership during the plague crisis, it had become the model for how different species could work together. Their success had attracted dozens of other civilizations who wanted to be part of something better than the old galaxy's power games. In the medical bay of the nearby research station Hope 7, Dr. Hyena reviewed patient files from across Alliance space. Her joint human Velothi medical teams had eliminated 17 different diseases in the past year alone, including several that had plagued individual species for centuries. "Doctor, we have the analysis back from the Corvin flu samples," announced her assistant, Dr. Chan Wu. "The treatment protocol you developed with Nara should be 97% effective." Dr. Hyena smiled as she looked at the data. "Send the formula to all Alliance medical stations immediately, and make sure the Corvin government gets a free license to produce it themselves." This was how the Alliance operated. Instead of hoarding knowledge for advantage, they shared discoveries freely. The principle had led to technological and medical advances that benefited everyone. On New Veloth, the first human Velothi colony, World Wubin and Kara walked through crystal gardens that sparkled under twin suns. Their wedding 3 years ago had been attended by representatives from 47 different species, making it the largest diplomatic gathering in galactic history. "The new growth chambers are working perfectly," Kara reported, her crystalline hand intertwined with Wubin's human fingers. "The hybrid crystal metal structures are 30% stronger than pure Velothi crystal, and much more flexible than human materials." "That's great news for the new Harmony Station project," Wubin replied. "With materials this strong, we can build space habitats that work for any species." Their children played nearby, unique beings whose biology combined human genetics with Velothi crystal formation. These hybrid offspring represented something entirely new in galactic history, a species born from cooperation rather than evolution or conquest. At the galactic capital on Nexus Station, Ambassador Jiho addressed the rebuilt Galactic Council. The chamber looked different now, with circular seating arrangements that put all species on equal footing, rather than the old hierarchical system that had favored ancient civilizations. "The Alliance welcomes the Republic of Centauri Prime as our newest member," Jiho announced to applause from dozens of different species. "With their membership, we now represent over 60% of known galactic civilization." The old Galactic Council had been disbanded after the monk trials revealed the extent of their manipulation. In its place, the new Alliance Council operated on principles of transparency, mutual aid, and species equality. Every member had an equal voice regardless of age, technology level, or military power. In the former ethereal monk space, rehabilitation programs worked to help former monk colonies adapt to life without their oppressive overseers. Many monk individuals had proven to be victims of their leadership rather than willing participants in genocide. Commander Do Yun, now an admiral himself, supervised these programs from his flagship, the New Soul. His ship's mixed crew included former monk soldiers who had chosen to serve the Alliance rather than face imprisonment. "Admiral, we're receiving a distress signal from the outer sectors," reported his communications officer, a young monk named Veltar who had rejected his people's supremacist teachings. "Origin?" Do Yun asked. "Unknown. The signal is using an old format we've never seen before. Could be from beyond explored space." This was exactly the kind of situation the Joint Defense Fleet had been created to handle. Instead of waiting for threats to develop or ignoring calls for help, the Alliance responded immediately to any species in need. "Set course for the signal origin," Do Hyun ordered, "and send word to Admiral Subin. We may need reinforcements." Captain Minho, now commanding the exploration vessel Friendship, was investigating strange energy readings near the galactic edge when he received news of the distress signal. His ship was a marvel of cooperative engineering, built with Velothi crystal technology, human manufacturing techniques, and contributions from a dozen other Alliance species. "Captain, long-range sensors are picking up massive structures ahead," reported his science officer, Latannern. Commander Yeji. They appear to be artificial, but the design doesn't match any known architecture. Through the viewport, Minho could see what looked like vast crystal cities floating in the void between stars. But these structures dwarfed anything the Velothi had ever built, and their energy signatures were unlike anything in Alliance databases. Prepare first contact protocols, Minho ordered. Whatever built those cities, they're clearly advanced enough to be treated with respect. The discovery of the Wanderer civilization would become another chapter in the Alliance's growing story. These ancient nomads had been traveling between galaxies for millions of years, but had never encountered a multi-species alliance like the one humanity and the Velothi had built. "You are unusual," the Wanderer ambassador, a being of pure energy, communicated during first contact. "Most young civilizations either conquer or are conquered. You have chosen cooperation instead." "We learned that different strengths make us all stronger," Minho explained. "Our human determination combined with Velothi crystal technology and wisdom from dozens of other species creates something better than any of us could build alone." The Wanderers agreed to share some of their galaxy-spanning knowledge with the Alliance, but more importantly, they chose to stay and observe this unique experiment in interstellar cooperation. Back on Earth, President Young-ho prepared for his final address before retiring from office. The world that had once been an isolated backwater was now the moral center of galactic civilization. But the responsibility had not changed the fundamental human values that made it all possible. "My fellow humans and Alliance partners," he said, to cameras that would broadcast his words to billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. 5 years ago, we faced a choice between safety and doing what was right. We chose to stand with our friends even when the entire galaxy turned against us." He paused, looking directly into the camera with the same determination that had defined humanity's response to the Velothi crisis. "That choice led us to discover that we were not alone in believing that cooperation is stronger than domination. Today, our alliance includes species from across the galaxy, all committed to the idea that every civilization has value and deserves protection. We have learned that being the youngest voice in the room does not mean being the weakest. Sometimes, it takes fresh eyes to see what ancient wisdom has forgotten. Sometimes it takes newcomers to remind everyone of what truly matters." In the crystal gardens of New Velath, human and Velothi children continued to play together as their parents worked on projects that would benefit species they had never met. On patrol ships throughout Alliance space, former enemies served side by side protecting worlds they had once threatened. The galaxy that had once abandoned the Velothi to die alone had learned a new way of living together. It was not perfect, and there were still species that preferred the old ways of competition and conflict. But the Alliance offered a different path, one based on the simple human idea that no one should face their darkest hour alone. Ambassador Jiho's final report to the Alliance Council summarized what they had all learned. "The humans taught us that true strength comes not from advanced technology or ancient wisdom, but from the courage to stand for what is right even when you stand alone. They showed us that the youngest species can teach the oldest lessons, and that friendship is the strongest force in the universe. The galaxy abandoned us, but humans remained our allies. In doing so, they became our teachers, our partners, and our hope for a future where no species ever faces extinction alone." As the newest Alliance ships launched toward unexplored regions of space, they carried with them the message that had started it all. Sometimes, doing what is right is more important than doing what is safe. And somewhere in the vast darkness, between stars, other civilizations facing their own darkest hours would soon learn that they were no longer alone either.